left, for the most part, is that they all should be let in. We debated immigration with Univision anchor Jorge Ramos. He said America needed to help, though he didn't personally have an obligation to help. Watch. Jorge, I'm really glad you're here because I've wanted to ask you this question all day. So in the many times we've spoken, you've explained that immigrants to the United States from Central America are a net addition to our economy. They're America's strength. They make this a much better country. Given that, why isn't Mexico jumping at the chance to absorb these migrants into its economy? Why is it wasting this human capital?
Well, the reality, Tucker, is that most of the immigrants that you see behind me, and as a matter of fact, they're not criminals or terrorists or not even immigrants, they're refugees. They don't want to stay here in Mexico. They want to go to the United States. Their plan is just to have a better life in the United States, and they are refugees. So I think we have to treat them with respect. We have to listen to the stories, hear their cases, check their backgrounds, and if they apply for political asylum, go through the process. The reality, Tucker, I understand what you're asking, but the reality is that they don't want to stay in Mexico, where, by the way, in the last 12 years, more than 200,000 people were killed. They don't want to stay here. They're fleeing violence and extreme poverty in Honduras, most of them. So they want to go to the United States. They don't want to stay here in Mexico. And in Mexico, by the way, they crossed the border between Guatemala and Mexico. I was there this morning, but that's probably just for Donald Trump to see. Just by the bridge, you will see little boats crossing thousands of immigrants in the last few days for $1 per person.
I'm confused, but hold on.
Hold on. For show, the reality is completely different.
Okay, so you say that the United States must show respect to these, what you call refugees. Why doesn't Mexico show them respect? Mexico is a rich country, the richest in the region. There are more billionaires in Monterrey and Mexico City than there are in Washington, D.C. Why are they sleeping on the ground? And why haven't they been taken care of by rich Mexicans of goodwill, the blue-eyed ruling class of which you were a part? Where are they in this?
Well, you know, it's a great question, and I'm so glad that you asked it, because Mexicans, despite what you might hear in social media, Mexicans have been treated, all these refugees, with incredible generosity and with incredible solidarity. I know that there are fake stories in the United States saying that these people were funded by George Soros and by Democrats or by Nicolás Maduro from Venezuela. Vice President Pence is completely wrong about that, because if they really finance these people, it was a scam. I've been talking to people here in Chiapas who don't have a single dollar, Tucker, to buy a bottle of water. So there's no financing here. And Mexicans,
but hold on, that's my point.
Not the politicians. The politicians, right. They've been playing the game with Donald Trump. But civilians, Mexican civilians, have been giving all these refugees a little money, water, food, clothes, and sometimes transportation to go to the next
I understand.
town. Yesterday I saw something incredible.
Wait, but let me just interrupt you and say,
let me tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yesterday they went 26 miles, a marathon. Many kids, hundreds of kids, Tucker, and that's the people of the caravan, not terrorists or criminals.
I think most Mexicans are very nice people. I grew up next to Mexico. I always liked them. It's your ruling class I'm asking you about, the people who are some of the richest people in the world who spend the summer in France every year. And again, you're from this group, so you can speak to this. Where are they in this? Why aren't they taking care of these people who are sleeping on the ground? We can see them right behind you. But where are those people? Where are the Mexican billionaires? They're very good at lecturing us about our moral inferiority, but they don't seem to be helping at all. Why?
No, I think you want to concentrate on what Mexicans are doing. I just told you that civilians have done it in a beautiful, generous way. And I think we have to concentrate now on what the role of the United States should be in all these crises. First of all, I spent 2 days with these refugees, and I have not seen a single person from the Middle East. That's a lie. And I think, Tucker, you have to tell the truth to your audience, and you have to make sure that people are not lying about this caravan, because the people from the Middle East are not part of this caravan.
But what are you? Let me just ask. What are you doing? Wait, hold on.
What
I understand.
Remake their lives.
Look, I'm not there, so I can't describe the people there. You said the United States, its taxpayers, me, the other 330 million American citizens, right, have an obligation. How many of these migrants are you taking in personally into your home and are supporting once they get to the United States?
I think that's a great question, and that's precisely the kind of question that people like you ask when you don't want to understand that this has nothing to do with individuals, it has to do with nations. And what we have to understand is that these refugees are not a threat to the United States. I know that in Fox News...
No, but how many are you taking... Before you attack the Fox, it's a simple question. How many are you taking in?
They are not a threat to the United States. I think it's really a love letter to the United States. And you know what they're saying in the United States? Please help us. You're the only ones who can help us.
I think that's right.
Exactly what they are asking from President Trump and from people like you and from all your audience. So I think it's very important that you send...
What about you? Hold on, Jorge.
Fox correspondents to this place and talk to them. And don't lie to your audience.
But I'm not lying to the audience.
Don't tell them that they're terrorists.
I'm trying to get...
And tell them the truth about
I'm going to stop with this. I'm going to stop with this.
You and Fox News and President Trump are saying
I'm
about this group.
asking you a very simple question. Okay. Let me just ask you, and let's answer this question. We can end on this. How many of these migrants are you personally taking responsibility for? How many are going home to Jorge's place in Miami at the end of the day? And please be specific.
Yeah, well, I think that, again, this has nothing to do with individuals. It has nothing to do with me. I wish I could help all of them. But right now, we're talking about 7,000 here. We're talking about 2,500 kids. It is impossible for an individual to deal with a crisis like this. I think President Trump's immigration policy has been a complete failure.
Have you donated money personally?
Tucker, I hope that, you could help them too, and I wish I could help them too. I wish we could do that.
Well, sure
I wish we could do something like that. But I bet if your kids were in danger of being raped or being raised in extreme poverty or being threatened with joining Amara or a gang, what would you do? I mean, would you take the risk?
I could count on you to do a stand-up next to them, but probably not to help them, I noticed. Okay. Jorge, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Jorge cares more than you do, just not enough to help. Our special edition of Tucker Carlson tonight continues just ahead. Democrats spend a lot of the year confidently accusing the president of treason with Russia. But when given the chance, could they produce any evidence to show that's true? We'll get to that in a minute. Plus, you don't want to miss the creepy and demanded an investigation to find proof of his treason. Well, they got that investigation, but they did not get proof. No matter. Rather than backing off, they just upped the stakes. Instead of accusing the president of collusion, they began accusing him of treason. That's a death penalty offense. Did they find evidence for that? Well, we were skeptical, but we invited Congressman Eric Swalwell onto the set to find out. Congressman, what's the penalty for treason?
Tucker, good evening. The penalty that we are all paying right now for the president's treason is we are losing our allies. We see a wrecking ball threatening our freedoms here at home. And by the president's own definition of treason, Tucker, let's just use that.
What's your definition of treason?
Betrayal of the American people.
But treason's a capital offense.
Why doesn't his definition matter? He's the president. He said that Democrats committed treason when we didn't.
Congress.
I'm telling you, he's the president. He said Democrats committed treason when we didn't stand up for him at the State of the Union. His conduct in Helsinki was beyond that. Is treason.
So treason is punishable by death. It's an actual crime, and I think you're an attorney. You would know that. So when you tell your constituents that the president of the United States has committed a death penalty offense, are you concerned that maybe, just possibly, you're torquing up the rhetoric past the point of reasonable conversation?
No, I'm saying that the president, by his own definition,
don't blame the president. Don't blame.
Oh, he has a lot to be blamed for.
It's not your job to take the president's definitions. You're an elected official. Hold on, slow down. I want to know what you think. If I just interviewed Trump, if I want to know what he thinks, I'll ask him. I want to know what you think. You're accusing the president of a capital offense. Why wouldn't it be more useful for the rest of us to explain specifically the policies that you disagree with, and we could have a debate on them? If you think the United States has an obligation to defend NATO members, tell us why. Instead, he's a treasonous Nazi. You think that's helpful?
Oh, I didn't call him a Nazi, Tucker, but why don't you have a problem that the President of the United States wants to turn over an innocent U.S. ambassador to the Russians? Don't you have a problem? Like, do we draw a line somewhere? Do we want to hear the transcript?
I have a problem with a lot of things the president has said. But I'm asking you, who is one of the people accusing the president of treason, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the kind of rhetoric, again, as an elected official, that you think spurs thoughtful, constructive conversation that brings the country together? Or does it whip the morons into a frenzy and increase the likelihood of violence? Well, honestly, give me a real answer.
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful country that has always added freedoms, and we have a wrecking ball president right now.
Don't give me the stupid talking points.
No, he's working.
So, like, why are you doing this?
With an enemy, Tucker.
Okay,
Tucker, you may not like the answer. You may not like the answer, but
no, but it's just dumb. I mean, working with an enemy, Russia's our
Tucker,
enemy.
What's dumb is that
really. So every president who met with Russia is committing treason.
A president who went over to Helsinki, had a private meeting, agreed to turn over a U.S. ambassador to an enemy, and sided with them over our own intelligence committee. At what point do you draw a line and say that's not a U.S. president? Okay. That's just the prime minister of Russia defending the president of Russia. At what point do you say that? So you think that the president is more loyal to Russia than the United? I mean, I guess I would just remind you that you're a member of Congress. You're not supposed to talk like a child or make reckless accusations or say things you don't understand or encourage people to commit violence. No, I'm just shocked that you're talking like this. I mean, you don't like the president because you think he's irresponsible. Do you want it to be led by somebody who is siding with the Russians over the United States?
Settle down, son. I'm older than you are. Don't call into question my love of the country, please. Come on now.
Tucker, please.
Let's have a conversation.
Private conversation with a dictator. Agreed to turn over a U.S. ambassador. Sided with them over our own intelligence community.
Just stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
You think it is treasonous for an American president to meet privately with the head of state who we don't get along with. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's a betrayal of the United States to side with Russia over our own intelligence community, to agree to turn over a U.S. ambassador to Russia who is innocent, knowing what the fate of that ambassador would be. So let me ask you this. Should the president meet with the leader of China? Obviously, a dictatorship kills its political enemies, practices censorship, actually has a great deal of censorship it inflicts on American companies. Should he meet with the Chinese premier, or would that be treason as well? If we're going to get something out of it. We didn't get anything out of it yesterday.
Hold on. So you're saying it is okay because a lot of your constituents get money from China, as we know. I mean, you represent the Bay Area. China pumps a lot of money into...
Don't insult the Bay Area.
I'm not insulting the Bay Area. I'm from the Bay Area. Yeah. I'm noting a fact, which is China makes a lot of your constituents rich. China is a more repressive country than Russia. Russia doesn't censor the internet the way that China does. I mean, let's just be real. But you don't have any problem with that at all, do you? All the freedom stuff doesn't mean squat to you, does it?
No, let's focus on the country that attacked us and the president who met with that dictator right after those indictments came down.
What about the Saudis? Are you cool with us meeting with the Saudis? They behead people. They kill gays. You okay with that? They don't let women drive up until recently. Yeah. That's okay with you, though,
Tucker, I think I see why you want to distract from the president and what he did yesterday.
I'm trying to know what the rules are here.
Tucker, tell me why you're okay with it. Tell me why you're okay with what the president did yesterday, because I don't understand why you are.
Meeting with Putin? Because Putin is one of the most powerful leaders in the world militarily.
Are you okay with what he said, that he sided with Putin? Are you okay with that?
He is skeptical of American intelligence reports that don't explain their conclusions.
Don't give me the talking points, Tucker.
That's not a talking point. That's how I feel about it.
Siding with Russia. Were you okay with him
siding with Russia? I'm never okay with an American official siding with the foreign government over our own.
Are you okay with him turning a U.S. ambassador over to Russia?
With American leaders meeting with heads of state we disagree with.
I wouldn't
accuse you of being a traitor if you met with the Saudis or the Chinese or indeed with Putin. I would like to interview Putin. Does that make me a traitor?
What about turning over Ambassador McFaul to the Russians? What do you think about that? They didn't deny that today at the press conference. That is so disturbing. Do you have an opinion on that?
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It sounds like you don't.
We've kind of run out of time for DNC talking points, but I would urge you to stop using the term treason because I think it's mindless, and I also think it's irresponsible.
I'm using the president's definition, just the president's definition.
Well, okay. Thank you, Congressman. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
That ambassador Trump was supposedly going to hand over to the Russians. Of course, that never happened. It was never going to happen, but no one followed up on it. Hysteria 1 week, amnesia the next. It was almost inevitable that the creepy porn...
Headquarters, I'm Matt Finn. Hundreds of volunteers spending their Thanksgiving Day searching for the remains of victims of the so-called Camp Fire. The deadliest wildfire in California history has claimed 83 victims. Another 563 people are still unaccounted for in and around the city of Paradise. The city was largely incinerated by the fire that started 2 weeks ago. Heavy rain today is hampering search efforts. Carlson is out as chairman of Nissan Motor Company. Nissan's board voted unanimously today to dismiss Gosin following his arrest for alleged financial violations. Prosecutors in Tokyo say he is suspected of underreporting more than $44 million in income from 2011 to 2015. Earlier in the week, Nissan Alliance partner voted to keep Gosen as its chief executive, but also appointed its chief operating officer as interim chief. I'm Matt Finn. Now back to a Tucker Carlson Tonight special.
Well, nobody embodies the political environment of 2018 much better than the creepy porn lawyer. By posing as an attorney seeking justice, he took over 2 entire cable news channels for months at a time. By September, CPL thought he was powerful enough to destroy Brett Kavanaugh with a fake gang rape allegation. That didn't work, but we'll still have to endure a creepy porn lawyer presidential run in 2020. To our surprise, out of the blue, he emailed us back one day and said he would be willing to come on our show, but he dodged all of our policy-related questions when he arrived. Instead, he talked up his lawsuit against the president. We agreed not to verbally call him creepy porn lawyer over the course of the interview. We made no such agreement about our graphics or what happened at the conclusion of the interview. CPL on the set was one of the most unforgettable moments in the 2-year history of the show. Here it is in its full. Hope you enjoy it. Why dodge the question? Look, you traveled here with policy advisors who've worked on other campaigns to the show tonight.
I have no idea.
I think you'd be ready for a simple question.
I didn't travel here with policy advisors. Can I ask you? Let me ask you a question.
No, I don't think. Why don't you get a TV show and then you can ask me a question? I've asked you a simple question and you're not answering.
Why is it that you don't call Donald Trump the creepy porn president? He's the one that had sex with a 4-month-old son at home with my client without a condom.
Okay,
but you don't want to acknowledge that.
Hold on.
You don't want to acknowledge that.
Acknowledge it.
Okay. Do you believe that he had sex with my client?
Yes, I do. I've said that on the air multiple times.
So let me ask you a question. People, and you're okay with that. You think it's okay if the president lies to the American people?
Settle down. Let me finish my question to you. What is the crime, the harm, the injury to your client by Donald Trump? As far as I understand, this was a consensual sexual relationship, and yes, I believe it occurred. I don't know that, but it seems like it did. I'm willing to believe that it did. But it seemed consensual, and then she was paid at the end of it. And yet you, and by the way, I'm not attacking Stormy Daniels. I feel sorry for her. I feel she's being exploited.
You've attacked her for 6 months.
I feel that you and others are exploiting her. So I feel bad for her. But I'm wondering what the injury is to her.
I think you demean her repeatedly. And
really?
I think you're a hypocrite.
So let me ask you what the injury, you want to talk about the case. I'm asking you the core question in the case. What is the injury to Stormy Daniels?
The injury is that the agreement that was entered into was not adhered to by Michael Cohen and Donald Trump. They did not fulfill their end of the bargain. Now, do you want to talk to about the injury to the American people, the lies and the
lying? So you believe no, but you just went off on this moral lecture about how it was wrong for the president to have an adulterous affair, and I would agree with that. But you're very outraged. So yes, you said it's an injury against the American people that he had sex with someone, not his wife, when his wife was pregnant.
You didn't let me finish. The injury is that he and Michael Cohen and others lied to the American people and covered up the $130,000 payment and violated campaign finance law. That's why Michael Cohen, I'm not done. That's why Michael Cohen just pled guilty.
Let me ask you a question.
That's why Michael Cohen just pled guilty.
I understand them. I've been following the news as well.
Okay.
Did Donald Trump have a moral obligation to tell the American people that he had a sexual relationship with Stormy Daniels?
I don't care whether he had a moral obligation or not.
Why is it a crime that he didn't?
No, what he had an obligation to do was not cover it up and lie about it and commit campaign finance violations as his right hand. Michael Cohen just pled guilty to the felony. Tucker, what are you talking about?
To campaign finance violations?
Yes, associated with Miss McDougal. And I thought you were following the news.
So let me ask you, let me ask you, I'm a little confused. So you're the protector of Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels is right now working in strip clubs in little towns on stage. People are throwing things at her. You're wearing a $1,000 suit. Why are you not paying her? You've profited from Stormy Daniels. You've done tens of millions of dollars worth of free media on the basis of your relationship with her, and she's working in strip clubs. You're exploiting her, and you know that. Why aren't you paying her some of what you're making?
Sir, this is absurd.
It's not absurd. Those are the facts.
No, you don't know the facts, as evidenced by the fact that
you don't even know. Is she working in strip clubs?
Are you going to continue to interrupt me, or are you going to let me finish?
I do know the facts, actually.
No, you don't, because you just demonstrated your ignorance, because you didn't even know Michael Cohen pled to 2 felonies associated with the campaign finance violations.
I don't believe that what Cohen did, and I'm not defending Cohen, I never have, was a campaign finance violation. I think it's absurd. I think it's absurd.
He pled guilty to 2 felonies.
Okay, so everyone who pleads, look, this is a
What, he's innocent?
we have an honest disagreement. I don't think it was a campaign finance violation. Stormy Daniels was to perform in Richmond in a depressing strip club. This hero that you say you're protecting, you're her protector. Why is she working in seedy strip clubs while you're on television wearing expensive suits? Why are you not exploiting her? Why is she doing that?
Because she wants to, Tucker. And
she wants to.
This is America. This is America. And guess what? If a woman wants to perform in a strip club, she does so.
But you're getting rich.
Even though people, I'm not getting rich. Even though people like you, demean her.
I'm not demeaning her. You're the one who's profiting.
You're the one that refers to her consistently as a porn star, and as to me as a creepy porn lawyer. And meanwhile, you give the president. Meanwhile, you give the president a pass who had unprotected sex with the porn star with a 4-month-old son at home.
Well, you are a moralizer for a guy who does what you do.
No,
but you are, though. You are a little moralizer. You're like, we're in church now with a 4-month-old son. Okay, I'm officially shocked by Donald Trump's behavior. I had no idea. It blew my mind. But answer my question. Why are you rich and your client is working in seedy strip clubs?
Sir, do you have any idea how much money I've earned?
You're on every cable show. You're running for president now.
You have no idea.
Well, I know that you haven't paid your taxes because you've got over $1 million worth of
ridiculous. You don't even know your facts.
It's not true.
You don't even know your facts, Tucker.
Look, I'm just saying, why is she still?
How do you have a show and you're this ignorant? How is that
Here's
possible?
what I know for a fact is that your client is not thriving. And for you to look at me in the eye and say she wants to perform in strip clubs with people throwing stuff at her is insulting to her. People don't do that unless they have no choice, or she just likes it. Is that what you're saying?
Tucker, now you're the defender of my client. You don't know anything about
pathetic. You're exploiting her.
You don't know anything about my client. Exploiting my client.
I know that she's working in a strip club in Richmond.
You gotta let me finish. Can I finish?
Please do.
All right. I've done a remarkable job for my client, and she'll be the first one to tell you that. And had you listened to any of her interviews or seen any of her comments, you would know exactly what she thinks of me. I'm not done. I am not exploiting my client. I'm representing my client to the absolute.
So when she wants to get your legal advice, does she have to pretend to be a booker from CNN to get through to you?
You know, that's disgusting. Why don't you show
What's disgusting
respect?
is
why don't you show some
thriving
respect to my client and me and stop calling us a porn star and a creepy porn lawyer? If you've got that big a problem with porn, do you have that big a problem with porn?
I'm not making fun of.
When's the last time? When's the last time you saw porn?
Oh, you busted me. Actually, I made humiliation porn. That's why I watch you on CNN.
No, but when's the last time you? When's the last time you viewed porn?
You're a little creepier even than I realized.
Do you have a problem with porn?
You're dodging the question that I have asked you repeatedly.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that people that view porn should watch your show?
I'm not even sure what that question means, but I will say this sincerely, that I have never attacked Stormy Daniels.
Yes, you have, repeatedly.
I think you are exploiting her, as I've said 5 times, and you haven't answered the question, which is, why is it that her life has stalled? And your life you're planning a new career as a politician, and like so many lawyers, you are taking advantage of her. And you pose as a feminist hero because you are shameless and the other channels let you get away with it. But you're an exploiter of a woman, and you should be ashamed of it.
And you're a,
that is
and
my.
You're, and you're
that is.
No, are you going to let me finish? Let me respond?
We're out of time, and I gave you more time. More time than I promised you.
You don't know what you're talking
about. But it is nice to see you.
Yet again.
12 minutes. Creepy porn lawyer. Great to see you. Couldn't resist calling him creepy porn lawyer at the end. He is. Ahead, in the age of Me Too, every man is at risk to protect themselves. Some men are rebranding themselves as feminist crusaders. You just saw that a second ago. Up ahead, spent years in the headlines for his romantic escapades, but in the age of Me Too, Mayer has a new passion, attacking something he calls toxic masculinity.
I don't want it to be the male contract. I'm telling you that's the contract, and we have to tear the contract up. You do not possess the universal ability to have any woman that you see. And I'm just going on record as revealing the trauma of men feeling like they've fallen short of a alpha male contract that nobody can live up to. And until we get rid of that in men, we won't have the life that we all deserve.
Writer and feminist Anna Shea Hussein came on the show after Mayer said that and said she agreed with him that we need to eliminate toxic men. I don't doubt anyone's sincerity, yours or John Mayer's. So I just want to restate, I think John Mayer's a really talented guy. But I remember his song, Your Body is a Wonderland. And in it, he's got this line, one pair of candy lips and your bubblegum tongue. I could go on, but I'm just wondering, is that an example of toxic masculinity right there?
No, it isn't. I mean, it depends on what you think about toxic masculinity. And I actually agree with you, Tucker. I mean, John Mayer, a couple of years ago, I don't think I would have been agreeing with much that he was said. He used to be such a dude, and he said many offensive things. But I think it's a very good example, his recent statements about how men can evolve and change. And by the way, toxic masculinity isn't about saying your body is a wonderland. It's actually about men being violent towards women. And that song was written for his girlfriend at the time.
Everyone is against men being violent toward women, but I wonder if the standard isn't different. If Brett Kavanaugh's calendar from 1982 had, you know, basketball with squee and then your body is a wonderland and your bubblegum tongue, I mean, you would have called for his arrest, right?
Well, yeah, but John Mayer wasn't up for the Supreme Court, right? I mean, you're talking about two different men.
So he wasn't in the way of Democrats assuming political power.
No, it's just a completely different.
I'm looking for a universal.
It's not the same thing, Tucker. It's not the same thing at all. One man is a singer, and the other man was up for the United States Supreme Court. And a very serious allegation.
In the way of Democrats.
But a very serious allegation came up against Kavanaugh, and that didn't happen with John Mayer. Has anybody ever accused John Mayer of sexual assault and testified?
And I hope not. And I'm not even attacking John Mayer at all. I just want to know what the standard is. Is that there's such a thing as toxic masculinity, which is men being male? Is there such a thing as
No, that is actually completely wrong. That's not correct at all.
There's no definition. It's just like some made-up dumb feminist term.
No, there isn't.
There's no real definition.
There's actually been studies done on it. It's an academic term, and it's about violence against women.
Now you've further discredited it. But let me ask you this.
No, I haven't
actually. Is there such a thing?
Look it up. We're talking about violence against women, and we're talking about a pop star. Please do.
Look, everybody's against violence against women. Let's be clear about that. I want to know if there's such a thing in the academic.
Is about.
Okay, that's your definition. Let me ask you, what is the definition of toxic femininity?
I don't think there is a definition of toxic femininity.
There are a ton of women. Oh, there isn't. Oh, there's not. So there are a lot of women in prison for shooting. Well, I have no idea. Actually, you know, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that inherent qualities are ever toxic. I don't think there's such a thing as toxic homosexuality or toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. I think the whole idea is insane. All of us as adults have an obligation to think as clearly as we can.
That's why you shouldn't define toxic masculinity
commonplace.
Incorrectly.
There's no definition of it, as you know. It's a bunch of ludicrous low IQ academics making it up as they go along.
That's not correct.
And you know, but it is true. But let me ask you very quickly, why not just say abuse is bad? Toxic masculinity is a quality that is inherent in men. You're attacking an inherent quality.
But
you know that perfectly well, which is why you'll not concede that there's such a thing as toxic femininity.
No, because you don't know what you're talking about. Toxic masculinity is not inherent. No, you don't, because you're completely misdefining it. It's incorrect.
Yeah. Okay. I need to read more academic journals, and I will. Well, for an entire calendar month, the U.S. political system ground to a halt, and Brett Kavanaugh and his high school yearbooks came to the fore. It was an amazing month for this show, and we're going to show you some of our most memorable. Instead of talking about immigration, the press hunted down everyone who knew Kavanaugh in college. Instead of discussing heroin ODs and how to stop them, we obsessed over Kavanaugh's high school yearbooks and his calendars. Instead of talking about Kavanaugh's judicial philosophy, the confirmation hearings revolved around decades-old allegations of sexual assault, none of them accompanied by any evidence at all, some of them absurd on their face. It was a remarkable period, a depressing period, but it produced some pretty interesting television segments. Here are some highlights. Start with a showdown with the ACLU over a TV ad they aimed at Brett Kavanaugh.
We've seen this before, denials from powerful men.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I've never seen anything like this.
I categorically and unequivocally deny the allegation against me by Dr. Ford.
America is watching, and as we choose a lifetime seat on our highest court, integrity matters, and we cannot have any doubt. Senator Gardner, oppose the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh.
Fayez Shakir is the ACLU's national political director, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Shakir, thank you for coming on.
Hi, Tucker. Thank you.
This is a disgusting ad, obviously, but what's so distressing is that you ran it. because this is guilt by association, the very thing the ACLU nobly stood against during, for instance, the blacklist period. Bill Cosby and Brett Kavanaugh have nothing in common, and you twin them in order to discredit Kavanaugh. How could you do that as the ACLU?
So appreciate your comments, Tucker. The common thread here, of course, is powerful men whose careers were on the line issuing denials about sexual wrongdoing. And in this instance, we believe that the denial issued by Brett Kavanaugh goes right to integrity, a position that he's applying for on the Supreme Court in which he sits in judgment of the rest of the nation. Integrity is of the critical importance, the utmost importance.
Okay,
and he is not entitled to the presumption of innocence. If you assume that, you're saying he's entitled to the job on the Supreme Court.
I'm sorry, but I'm not actually. No, but hold on. I'm not arguing that. I'm asking you why you put him next to a man who was tried in court and convicted of felonies and sentenced to prison.
Because that
when
individual,
he, as you just noted, hasn't done any of those things.
That individual also denied the accusations. I think you would appreciate, Tucker, that we're criticizing people on the left and the right.
I don't care about the left and the right. I care about the principles that make the country worth living in, which you once defended and now you urinate on. Let me read the memo from your group. We're not going to assist in cases that may advance the goals of white supremacists or others whose views are contrary to our values. If you're not defending people who are unpopular, who you disagree with, why do you still exist?
We absolutely defend the people. We are doing so right now. If you look at a case in New York where we're defending the NRA, if you look at a case where we're defending Milo.
I mean, how about someone who's really unpopular? You made this country better. Now you're making it worse because you abandoned your principles, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
If I were Brett Kavanaugh, and if I were an innocent man, I would say, look, you don't want to testify on Monday, take a week, take 2 weeks, take a month, because when this is done, and if I'm confirmed, I will not live my life under a cloud where people can say, well, the reason you got through is because we rushed it. Take a month. This is my life. That's what I would do if I were an innocent man.
But then if you were facing opponents who publicly declared that you were guilty on the basis of no evidence and used as evidence the fact that you didn't request an FBI investigation into yourself, you would acknowledge you're dealing with unreasonable people who don't care about justice, who are merely trying to destroy your life for political ends. So maybe you'd behave differently, or am I being crazy here?
Well, I don't know about that. If I were facing unreasonable people, and if I were an innocent man, what I would say is, fine, you want to delay the hearing a month? Delay it. You want the FBI to look into it? Look into it. You want to interview this witness in closed session, in open session?
Anonymously.
I'm an innocent man.
Yeah, Yeah, I wish we lived in a country. I'd be happy to participate in such a system, but when you have people saying what Kirsten Gillibrand said today, or Congressman Garamendi said today, you're dealing with unreasonable people who don't care about justice, and it's scary. They're saying that the accused has an obligation and has a responsibility to come forward with evidence to rebut the claims. That is, again, precisely the opposite of English common law on which our system is based. No one has ever said that before that I'm aware of in the history of my living history anyway. And you're okay with that?
Yeah, what I think should happen is actually what both Dr. Ford and now Ramirez believe should happen, which is that there should be an FBI investigation.
But hold on, but he's saying Judge Kavanaugh has a responsibility to come forward with evidence to rebut the charges. Do you or don't you think that's a fair standard?
I do think that, yes, if we're going to have this conversation about whether or not these things happened, and he doesn't want an FBI investigation, which, by the way, he does not, then sure, yes, he's going to have to
actually say something. Okay, so if I accuse you of something with no physical evidence or eyewitnesses, which is what she has done from 36 years ago, and it's a sex crime that would destroy your reputation and hurt your family, you now have a moral obligation or a responsibility, as Senator from Connecticut says, to rebut that? That's what you're saying?
You have an obligation, yes, to defend yourself. Now, again, he has decided that he doesn't want an FBI investigation. That's what the Republican Party has said. And that they also don't want...
So you want to live in that country where the accused has a responsibility, and if you can't find evidence to disprove the charge, which has no evidence to support it in the first place, then you are presumed guilty.
Is anybody saying that he's going to go to jail? No, they're saying maybe he won't be a Supreme Court justice.
You mean he has two little girls and a wife, and he's being accused of a sex crime by someone who has zero evidence it happened and multiple witnesses who say it didn't, and now we're saying that this guy has to prove that he's innocent? Well, if you think carefully over all that is